Stay with us. We are now going to move to Europe, and President Donald Trump is considering sending Ukraine an additional Patriot missile air defence system. The move would mark the first time his administration approved a major weapons system for Ukraine beyond what the Biden administration has authorised. Trump has expressed increasing frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin and recently vowed to bolster Ukraine's defences after a phone call on Thursday. As per reports, the White House has asked the Pentagon for options to send more weapons, including another Patriot battery. Ukraine has so far received 3 US-provided Patriot systems, 3 from Germany and 1 from a coalition of European countries. However, due to maintenance, not all systems are operational at once. The systems remain Kyiv's most effective defence against ballistic and cruise missile attacks. Well, Professor Nagy, thank you for staying with us. Let's look at the importance of these missile systems. We know conversations have been had. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has spoken about Germany's potential involvement in purchasing these systems from the US and then directly handing them to Ukraine. But this a signal that Donald Trump may make that step himself. This, of course, in the wake of a record number of drone attacks on Ukraine yesterday, reported by Ukrainian officials. I'm sure we will come to it, but further overnight strikes being reported on the capital, Kyiv, and other areas in Ukraine as well. So an intensifying of strikes from Russia, how significant is it for Western allies of Ukraine that they can defend themselves effectively?
Well, it's absolutely essential that the Ukraine can continue to defend itself against Russian aggression. And I think that in many ways that the Trump administration has been quite transparent about this. They said they would negotiate with the Putin government, and if there was progress, they would move towards a peace, some kind of peace settlement. But at the same time, they said that they would likely, arm the Ukrainians and give it the defense capabilities if Russia was not willing to negotiate it. And this is where we are today. I think it's part of Mr. Trump's MAGA agenda, but I think it's also part of the MATA agenda, make America and Mr. Trump great again. And I think when we think about this, Mr. Trump sees an opportunity to demonstrate strength, demonstrate leadership, but in a very targeted way by providing the Patriot missiles. The Patriot missiles are really meant to knock down incoming planes and larger missile systems from Russia or from whatever the adversary is. And these are not going to work well, and they're not really suitable for the kind of drone warfare that we're seeing on the front line. But they will be important in protecting the major capital, Kyiv, and some of the major cities from Russia attacks. Question for all of us as we think about this is the sustainability of using these systems to defend Ukraine. Ultimately, they have to be able to replace the anti-missile systems over and over a long time to dissuade the Russians from using these systems, or at least make their attacks on Ukraine much less effective.
Yes, absolutely. And let's look at that support from Western nations to Ukraine. Of course, the coalition of the willing, which is led by the United Kingdom and France, but a group of nations looking to support Ukraine. There has been conversation around the risks associated for Europe, but for the wider world, for the wider Western world, why, in your opinion, is it important, if it is, for them to repel this potential Russian advancement for geopolitical stability?
Well, I think, former Prime Minister Kishida Fumio from Japan said this at the 2022 Shangri-La Dialogue, that today's Ukraine could be tomorrow's East Asia. And he was referring to the fact that there's tremendous geopolitical challenges associated with territorial issues and, complicated relations such as the Taiwan-China relations. And that there's concern that, in particular, China would take the lessons from Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, that it could also use military power to either reunify with Taiwan or seize and control the South China Sea, which is a really, really important area for global trade. About 5.5 trillion US dollars of trade go through those sea lanes every year. So there's real concern that placating or accepting Russia's forced um, uh, conquering of territory in Ukraine would be, an example for China. And this would have global ramifications if China were to do something similar over Taiwan or in the South China Sea. So in a sense, we have something called the interconnectivity of war. Is that what happens in Europe actually matters to other parts of the world, including the Indo-Pacific, where I'm based.
Yes, absolutely. Professor Nagy, if you stay with us, we're staying in Europe, and Europe